Dr. Chanel Jones, Pastor Rick Jones, Dr. James Ford, Crystal R. Jackson, Pastor Rich Nathan, Kyle Strickland, and Mary Younger.
I'd like everyone to note that the mics are new, so you will have to push a button to be heard. No longer can you just speak and it will pick you up. So consider that before you start any sort of comment. And then speak into the mic. Our tech folks are remote, so we will not have them here visibly giving signals if they can't hear you, but they will let Stephanie know, and then Stephanie will let us know if we are not being loud enough or directly into the mic enough. All right, hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to take a look at the minutes from the previous meeting. Did anyone have any additions, edits, or otherwise?
Oh, but can we welcome Pastor Jones?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
It's on the agenda. Does anyone have any additions, edits, or otherwise? All right, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes.
So moved.
May I have a second, please? Second. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. Opposed? And we have an abstainer, one abstainer, all meeting long. And so at this point, I would like to welcome our newest board member, most recently sworn in immediately before this meeting. So Pastor Jones, would you like to say hello or introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Pastor Rick Jones.
I'm sorry, this is new, sorry.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pastor Rick Jones. I'm excited to be a part of the board. I look forward to learning and hearing the cases and just doing everything I can do in my power to make sure everything goes good. That's it.
Thank you so much. All right, and moving on, we will give the floor to the IG for an update from the Inspector General's office.
Well, good afternoon, Chair Burns, and good afternoon, board members. And again, welcome aboard, Pastor Rick Jones. Had an opportunity to come to our office and did a walkthrough. Let me speak louder, thank you. Had an opportunity to come to our office and do a walkthrough and meet our staff. And again, we're excited to have you as a member of our board. Before I get started, before we present our quarterly report, I wanted to take a few minutes to address the board regarding some concerns as the director of the Department of Inspector General about comments that were made at the October 6th board meeting. I'll keep this short because I understand that the board's time is valuable and this meeting is meant to focus on board-related matters. While I was taken aback by the comments at the meeting, I was disheartened to learn that my staff shared some of the same sentiments when I returned to the office the very next day. While some of these are ongoing concerns that my team has dealt with before and myself, the tone this time felt more contentious, almost as if it was directed at the quality of the work being done by the Department of Inspector General. I want to reiterate that the citizens of Columbus voted to establish both the Civilian Review Board and the Department of Inspector General. The purpose was to ensure independent oversight over the Columbus Division of Police. Even though we are two separate entities, we share the same mission, vision, and goal. The Department of Inspector General is the investigative arm for the Civilian Police Review Board. Our role in this partnership is to investigate citizen complaints involving allegations of police misconduct and excessive use of force. We take that responsibility very seriously. The success really depends on both of the partnerships that we form here, along with mutual trust and respect for one another. Now, while the reports we provide are summaries, please know that behind the report are hours on hours of detailed work, which includes reviewing CPD policies, procedures, city policies, law, body cam, interviews, and lots of other documentation. Before the DIG was completed, before the DIG was created, this work was conducted of doing administrative investigations was done by the CPD Internal Affairs Bureau, which is staffed by approximately 18 investigators, of which are at the rank of sergeants. By comparison, our department has only been operational for over 3 years. We have 10 investigators, of which 2 are supervisors doing the same complex work, and at the same time meeting our contractual obligations of conducting investigations within a 90-day time frame. That is due to the collective bargaining agreement along with the charter. Our investigators are trained to independently gather and verify information. They use multiple CPD databases, research case law, review policies that are constantly changing, and conduct officers' interview, along with the fact that we have legal counsel that we talk to regarding legal matters, and we also talk to legal counsel regarding contractual matters involving the collective bargaining agreement. Our operation is a 5-day-a-week, 9 to 5. Many officer interviews that occur outside of our regular hours, sometimes late at night, early morning, to make sure that we're meeting that 90-day investigative timeline window. Just to clarify, that is 90 calendar days, not business days. And each investigator is managing several cases at once. I don't want to forget our support staff, which consists of the executive secretary to the board that provides assistance to the board and handles board-related information. We also have a executive secretary to our office that also handles office-related matters, manages the office. We have a management analyst who handles the budget, data requests, also handles our public records requests. We have a community liaison who's out there in the community, evenings, weekends, representing the department and building those relationships and bringing that information back to the office regarding what citizens are asking, what they're seeing, what they're not seeing, so that we can be a better department. We have an intake specialist that handles all of the intakes that we receive. Along with that, we also have the deputy and myself, the inspector general. So yes, we are a small department in size, but the dedication, due diligence, motivation, attention to detail, energy being put forth by Team DIG is as efficient, accurate, factual, done with integrity in comparison to any larger oversight agency in the country. Every person on this team gives their best every single day because they believe in the mission, the independence of what we represent as an independent oversight and public accountability. Thank you for allowing me to take this time to share this information. And we can move right on to being able to give you an update regarding the third quarterly report.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board. I have the pleasure of going over some of the data for our third quarter report. And this was distributed to you previously, so you had a chance to review it. And I'm going to start on page 7. First thing in the report are the complaints received during the third quarter of this year. I'd like to point out that the overall means in which we receive complaints are actually diversifying. The hotline still remains our biggest means of receiving citizen complaints, but thankfully. Oh, it is.
I just think it
Oh,
needs to be
thank
closer
you.
to it.
Sorry, getting used to the changes. So yes, we are experiencing more diversification in the means for receiving citizen complaints. Hotline complaints are still the biggest means in which we receive. Moving on to the next page, we actually closed 226 citizen complaints at intake and opened 89 into investigations. Next, we have the breakdown for the reason for those 226 complaints closed. And the number one means was preliminary investigation found no police misconduct, followed by it was referred to another agency, and then third, insufficient information to proceed with the investigation. Looking ahead on page 9, we opened 89 investigations, closed 95, and we saw an increase compared to last year for the total first, second, and third quarters, which is about 50 more investigations for each category for open and closed compared to 2024. On the next page, we have a breakdown of the allegation types. For the third quarter, the number one category was actions taken, not taken, followed by force, which is second, and then search and seizure, which was number 3. This is also reflected in the yearly total so far, which is action taken, not taken, the top category for 269 allegations, followed by force 91 and 73 for search and seizure. So the next we have a breakdown for the allegation categories by precinct. We did the top 5 categories, which was the actions taken, not taken, force, search, seizure, rude, discourteous, and or profanity, and then investigative actions, accident. So I'll let you go over there to this chart and see which locations were highest for those categories. And the next is chart H, which is the cases investigated by precinct. I think this is the best example for where we are receiving complaints from because allegations can be multiple per complaint. So we received the highest number of cases from the 5th precinct, which is South Linden, followed by precinct 10, which is Southwest Columbus, and precinct 6, which is Blendon Woods, Easton area. Following that, we have a majority of our dispositions for the third quarter were found to be unfounded with 211, followed by exonerated with 44, and then sustained allegations of 42. So for the sustained allegations, we broke it down in chart J for the categories of the allegations that were sustained. The top category was actions taken, not taken, with 14 allegations, followed by rude, discourteous, and or profanity with 8 allegations, and then body-worn camera usage for third category, which is 7 allegations found to be sustained. So a total of 42 for there. And then finally, we are on to the investigation reports reviewed by the Civilian Police Review Board. So in the third quarter, you reviewed 56 of our investigations, and for combined first, second, third quarter, the CPRB reviewed 207 cases. A little ahead of last year, looking at the total. And then following that, we do have a summary of all of the third quarter investigations. And if there's any questions, feel free to reach out to the DIG, and we'll happy to get you any answers you need.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you very much.
Yes, questions?
Thank you, Nate and DIG, for providing this report. I do have a question. Do you all tally the sustained allegations by precinct? Because right here, it's just the aggregate number in terms of the allegations. I wonder, do you all break it down a little further so we know where exactly those sustained allegations are?
Yes, we, so each allegation that is investigated, we have precinct information for.
Okay. Have you, just a suggestion, if we can get that included in the report, that would be great.
Sounds great.
I guess it's just, could you, Dr. Jones, could you, of what value is the sustained allegations? I guess for my edification.
Sure. So the sustained allegations are those allegations that, of course, the DIG sustains as well as the board. And so I was asking, they categorize in the report here the number of cases that are investigated by precinct. I would be interested in seeing the number that were sustained by precinct, and I'm sure the general population would be too, because that is where we would know where there is truly an issue that was sustained in the particular area of the city. So that way, perhaps Columbus Division of Police can see which area precinct or zone needs to be a little bit more focused or have their focus on in terms of addressing whatever issues may arise from those sustained allegations. If the precinct information is not known publicly, then we have no idea of knowing where those serious areas of concerns are in intervening.
So then the Columbus Division of Police would know where training should be focused, where personnel should be looked at, and that.
Exactly.
So the IG would then be, and the board would be aiding the Columbus Police Department in that regard.
Yes, in terms of rectifying, if there are any patterns that we're seeing, any issues that are coming up, they would be able to address it in real time. Yes.
So we have to kind of, and this is wonderful, because this is why.
Mayor, can you scoot closer to the mic?
Sure. This is why the board should be here, so that we can better serve our community.
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
There has to be, we have to be a little bit careful that we do maintain that, the fact that the Inspector General is an independent body, that always, there has to be, we just have to be very careful to maintain that independence for the Inspector General. I was at just briefly, I had the opportunity to be at the NACO conference this past week. And I thank the Inspector General for allowing some of the board members to go. And the thing that struck the most was how fabulous, not to, this board and this Inspector General's office is. And the most important thing was the fact that it's an independent body. A lot of the Inspector Generals, or they had different names there, were part of the police department. In fact, in some of them, the Internal Affairs did their investigations. But here, we are so lucky that they have an independent staff that does the investigations, and it's totally reviewed. Even if IA, or even if they do the investigation, this Inspector General reviews it independently. So I love the idea that we are going to get breakdowns by precincts, and then we are going to forward to the police department reports. This is all wonderful because it helps our citizens, but we have to keep in mind that this Inspector General is independent of Columbus Police Department. So we like the fact that we can help them train, and we can help them in all these ways, but we have to be careful.
Dr. Jones, can I ask, I mean, this is an area of your expertise, doing deep dives into the statistics to assist in training. Do you think it would make sense, beyond the sustained allegations, to begin to see patterns regarding the kinds of allegations? Let's say we had, a spike in claims that people were being racially profiled, but because there wasn't any body-worn camera evidence or anything else, those allegations could not be sustained, and so we just have a long series of unfounded claims. Nevertheless, we're seeing a pattern of allegations. If we, for example, found that one of the precincts was disproportionately being accused of something, whether that was found by the Inspector General to be unfounded or not, it would seem that that would raise concerns. So I guess what I'm asking you is, based on your expertise, do you think that that would be something that also ought to be tracked, or do you think that that would, yeah?
So that's a really good question. On page, I believe it's 11 of the report, the DIG actually does track, and I think it's the top 5 allegations by precinct. Now, it doesn't include all of it, so that might be an area, but tracking that, and I believe they have been doing so, is something that is needed and can help us to identify what those trends are and identify any types of patterns that may be alarming or raise some concerns. But an allegation is an allegation. I think that's one avenue. The other avenue is also looking at the disposition of those allegations as it pertains to each precinct, which is why I suggested the looking at the sustain and perhaps looking at all the dispositions per precinct as well. But yeah, I definitely agree with you, and I believe they're doing that work already, which is good. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I didn't see anything because we've regularly seen allegations of racial profiling, but that's not, I don't see that on this chart, so.
I don't believe, and maybe the DIG can correct me on that, I don't believe you track it as racial profiling per se, or do you?
On page 11, there is actually a breakdown of all of the allegations. Racial profiling, there's only been 11 allegations of such conduct this year. So that's an easier one to go into each case and look into it if needed.
You said page 11? That's,
I mean, sorry, page 10, my apologies. I was, sorry, 11 was the breakdown of the precincts.
okay, I see it.
11's the top ones, but this is
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is by precinct?
No, but we
No,
can
they
get
only gave us the top 5 by precinct.
Yeah, so the top 5, that is about 2/3 of all the allegations.
I would ask the board to take some time to digest the report, because it's a lot of information, and I appreciate it, especially given our discussion about like what information could we get on a monthly basis. And if there are other thoughts you have about whether it's breaking down sustained findings by precinct, or as you're reading through and you're thinking, oh, I'd like to know, I don't know, fill in the blank. If you could please get that to Stephanie, because the IG and I talked about like what are the different categories we'd like to see. And so if you have an idea of a category you'd like to see, please get that information to Stephanie so that we can ask the IG of the way that Matrix categorizes, is this another either column or chart that could be added? So let's do, what is today, the 4th? And it's Thanksgiving soon. We could maybe have that by the 18th of November, if you could get that information to Stephanie. And I'm not promising that, because I know we do things in arrears. So not saying that by the December meeting, we'd have that information, but just so that you all could be aware of, is this possible? Is information, could we break this down based on what the board asks?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We can also ask, Madam Chair, if Stephanie can share with the categories that you shared with us. That way, some of the board members may not be aware. We addressed we had tried to address some of the categories that was requested by the board at the last board meeting, but you also provided some additional categories. So
Yes.
maybe the board members
I
might
did.
see
After
that.
our meeting last week, I looked through my notes from what folks said and took some of those suggestions. I also tried to look through any emails to see whether any board members had sent any other suggestions, and I developed a list of, just based on conversation, here's what I think the board is looking for. I do not believe that anyone else sent Stephanie anything, so I tried to give a list of what I imagined would be a cogent monthly report. So again, I do ask you to read the report, and by the 18th, submit any additional categories to Stephanie that you think would be helpful to have. They're in the minutes,
The
yeah.
questions that you guys
Thank you.
asked before are in the minutes. Anything else that she gave, that was between.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. All right, any other questions for the IG or for Nate?
I do have another update if, after we're done with the board, after we're done with the update with the third quarterly report, if the board doesn't have any other questions.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I just wanted to give a follow-up. The board had questions concerning the database. So we had a meeting with IT. We met with the team that manages, and I'm hoping I'm saying the name right. Is that Tableau? Tableau. Tableau. So the team that we met with, the information that we were able to find out from there, it is real-time. Public Works, the Water Department, and the Mayor's Office are using these systems. There is a license that would not be a cost to us, so that's a great thing, doesn't add to our budget, to be able to use this. And we also, when we met with the team, they discussed that smaller departments like myself that do not have an IT team, that they do support. So we're working with them to kind of see where that goes. One of the questions they had was where our data is stored. So we're still working to see if our database is actually stored on the server where the prosecutor's office data is stored, I don't know. I think ours is stored in the cloud. So anyway, they're working with Matrix to kind of see where that's at. So that's where we are right now. So once we can kind of figure that out, then we'll try to work with them and we'll try to move forward with trying to see if we can get that. We're offering some training. Again, I don't know the labor that it would take to actually implement this. I don't know if we have to have a separate person managing the system, so we're still working, but I did want to make sure that I gave the board an update as to where we were on that. And if you have any questions, just please let me know.
Any questions? All right, thank you, Inspector General. Now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Tobias, who has fun legal knowledge for us all.
I don't know about all that, but the timing's good because I'm actually going to be presenting an open meetings public records presentation to a bunch of law students tomorrow night. So I took some information from my PowerPoint and just put it in hopefully a one-page, easy-to-read, usable format so I don't kind of overwhelm anybody or bore anybody. Before I do that, I should say that just friendly reminder, in the code 235.03B, the board shall report annually to City Council on the disposition of complaints, outcome of investigations, blah, blah, blah. So I know that happened last year, and normally we talk about the timing maybe in, I think we said February or March, normally to wait till end of year, but just putting it kind of on the radar now that annual report to City Council is part of the statutory requirements. In regards to open meetings and public records, the open meetings portion I think is a little bit more self-explanatory, and so I don't have as much on that. There's basically provisions within the Ohio Revised Code which indicate that public officials must take action and conduct all deliberations on official business only in open meetings. And when I say open meetings, this forum right now that we're all participating in is what would be considered an open meeting. The primary exception is executive session. In statute, there are delineated provisions there indicating for what types of topics you can go into executive session. You normally move into executive session from a regular meeting. You have discussion. There's no voting that takes place in executive session. You move to come back into regular session, and then you would take votes. I don't know if, I think you guys have gone into executive session maybe once or twice, but of course it's very limited circumstances where that takes place. On the sheet here, what is a meeting? There's usually 3 things that you think of for a meeting: prearranged gathering, majority of the members, and discussion, deliberation of public business. I think the one that's maybe a little bit less known is our committees. Some folks may not realize or understand the importance of committees being open meetings as well, which means that they are subject to the same notice requirements as regular meetings. They are subject to the same quorum requirements as regular meetings, and they're subject to the same minutes taking requirement as regular meetings. So just friendly reminders, I know there's 3 different committees here that review cases outside this forum, outside the regular meeting. Those need to be publicly noticed. The primary way that we do that is through the city bulletin. There are publication deadlines for the city bulletin. If you're not sure what they are, please check with Stephanie, as she's the one who posts those in the city bulletin. You just want to make sure that you're giving her time, date, location of your committee meetings in a timely fashion so that she can get them properly noticed. For meetings purposes, it's important to take minutes during those meetings. I think I've mentioned before, the minutes don't need to be verbatim, but they do need to kind of provide enough information in them so if somebody from the public were to look at those minutes, they would be able to have a pretty basic understanding as to what things were discussed at the meeting and what types of actions were taken at the meeting. The last thing I'll say about open meetings is that there is a Ohio Revised Code provision allowing for virtual meetings. I know some board members have asked about the possibility of committees meeting virtually. If that is something that the board has an appetite for.
Yes.
I know I spoke with you, Pastor Nathan, previously, and I know it was a resounding yes.
Yes.
That would require a vote of the board, majority vote of the board, to say, yes, we want to authorize virtual meetings. The good way to do it would be to just create a policy for the board as a whole at these regular meetings, and then also build in the ability to do that for committee meetings. I would have to craft a policy for you. The statute requires a policy. Thankfully, one of my colleagues has already worked pretty diligently on one for the Labor Commission, which I will use as my framework if that's something that you would like to do. So as soon as I hear a majority vote in the affirmative, I will get to work on that for
Can
you.
we have a motion? Can we call for a motion on that?
Yes, we absolutely can. Question, Mr. Tobias, for virtual meetings, those, I assume, also have to be broadcast. Is that correct? If we did committee meetings that were virtual?
Yes, and just, the policy is not overly burdensome, but there are specific provisions in 121.221 of the revised code there are certain provisions that must be incorporated into the policy, and there are also exceptions. There are certain items, there's 4 or 5 of them, where you cannot meet virtually if you're going to be discussing certain types of things. Some of them will not be applicable to this board, like non-routine major expenditures, things of that nature. But there's a little bit of tediousness to the policy, but again, the one that my colleague prepared, I believe it's about 2 or 3 pages, so it's not like it's a 12-page document that you have to parse through. And I can certainly, again, upon a vote, I'll create a framework and pass it around so that you can all kind of look at it and familiarize yourself with it. Ultimately, you'll have to give approval to the policy.
Okay. So timeline-wise, another question, Mr. Tobias.
Yeah.
If we were to vote today and ask for that to be distributed, would it be possible to be able to have the vote accepting the draft in December?
Sure.
And then that way, meetings scheduled for 2026 or after the December meeting could be virtual?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I would entertain, if you don't mind, is that
No,
okay?
I don't mind at all.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to request that Mr. Tobias draft a virtual meeting policy for the board so that committees could meet virtually.
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
And I would also like to pause and say, can Pastor Jones vote on this? Because this is a new business
He is a
matter.
full-fledged member of the board,
Perfect.
absolutely.
Awesome. I will call the question to vote. All in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, Mr. Tobias.
I
We'd
have my
love to have a
mandate. Fair
policy
enough.
for virtual committee meetings.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on with public records, this is the one that I think is a little bit less known and may not have as much familiarity with. I know from time to time the Department of Inspector General and the Civilian Police Review Board gets public records requests. I think it's worthwhile to kind of talk about some general provisions. That's in Ohio Revised Code Section 149.43. The requirement is that upon request, any records that are deemed to be responsive to a public records request shall be promptly prepared and made available. There's a variety of different ways that records can be made available. The primary one is the requester just says, send them to me either an email or hard copy or on a flash drive or something like that. I think nowadays, very rarely do folks want to come into the public office and sit down and actually look at the records. It's the office providing it to them. I will back up 1 second and say the open meetings apply to public bodies. Clearly, you guys are a public body, whereas public records apply to a public office. And the revised code section says public office includes any political subdivision or other organized body or entity established by the laws of the state for the exercise of any function of government. So I would say that the DIG and CPRB qualify as public offices for purposes of public records requirements. What is a record? So on that sheet there, about halfway down, you can see 149.011G defines what a record is. Again, I won't read it to you, I'll let you read it, but the important thing is all three parts of that test must be met for something to be considered a record. If one of the three parts is not met, then it doesn't qualify as a public record. There are exemptions to disclosure in the revised code, so there used to only be a handful, but I purposely put on the sheet there that it goes from A1A all the way to BBB, which means you have the whole alphabet, then you have the whole double alphabet, and now you're starting on the triple alphabet. So there are a lot of exceptions. If you ever have a request and you have a concern as to whether something would fall under one of the exceptions, you should certainly reach out to me, and I will look into that and give you legal advice on that matter. Both the DIG, the board, and the committees are all subject to the provisions related to public records. There's something called a records retention schedule. I believe that's housed at the DIG that also lists records associated with the CPRB. Basically, when a records retention, there's a records commission that meets, I believe it's twice a year. They're the ones that adopt and approve records, but departments prepare them and then they're adopted by the commission. Departments do their best to identify all different types of records that could be created in the retention policy, but sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And ultimately, if we come across a record that's not on the retention schedule, you must retain it indefinitely until it gets added on to the retention schedule as adopted by the Records Commission. I haven't seen it in a minute, so if you want to provide me with a copy of it, well, actually, maybe Nate already did that, yes. If you have any questions about the records retention schedule, things that are on the schedule, please let me know. I'm happy to answer your questions. I've been asked a couple times whether the person has to provide their identity for the request. The answer is no. Public records requests can be made anonymously and made in any manner. They can be written on a sheet of paper, they can be emailed, somebody can orally make a public records request. A department or an agency can create a form if they wish and say, hey, it'd be really helpful for us to identify responsive records if you would fill out this form, but the person can say no. They don't have to fill it out. And again, they don't have to identify themselves. Something else that's really important to mention is that only existing records need to be provided. You don't have to create a new record in response to a records request, and you don't have to compile data, compile information. Only records that currently exist are ones that need to be provided. And then the other thing that I think is important to mention is that they may be subject to redaction. So if there's exemptions like social security numbers or tax identification numbers, things like that, that are subject to redaction, then a document should be redacted before it's provided as being responsive. If you're going to redact something, you do need to provide a legal basis for the redaction. Again, if you have a records request and you're concerned that something should be redacted or you need me to review it to determine if redactions are appropriate, please let me know and I'm happy to do that as well. Just a couple other provisions here to talk about. If a requester believes that an agency or a department is dragging their feet, or it's taking too long, or they're being obstructionist, they have the ability to file a claim with the Court of Claims. We try not to get to that point. We try to be timely. It's a reasonable period of time. It depends on the nature of the request. Are you asking for 6 documents or 600 documents in terms of what's a reasonable time to comply? But I always ask clients to exercise reasonableness and good faith in terms of doing your due diligence and checking in all the places you should be checking to make sure to determine if you have responsive documents or not. And then there's usually a point of contact who compiles all the records and then getting those documents to that point of contact so that they can respond to the requester. Court of Claims.
Bias, can you
Yes.
share who the responsive person is for the IG's office?
My
which means
understanding
our
is it's Nate. He's the records custodian, so everything should go through Nate unless I'm told otherwise. Court of Claims can be fined. You can get fined, significant fines for not turning over records. In certain instances, the Court of Claims can direct somebody to pursue a mandamus action. Those are a little bit more limited, but again, we try not to get there. The last thing related, at the very bottom there, related to confidentiality. I'm drawing a distinction between things that are kind of working drafts, open investigations, law enforcement records, things of that nature. There are some exceptions that while an investigation is still going on, it may qualify as an exception to the public records laws. And so when you, as a board, are receiving complaints and investigations from the IG, that you recognize that until those investigations are closed and voted on, they may not become public records. And so you should limit other people's access to those documents until they qualify as public records, especially since at that point they haven't been reviewed for exemptions or redactions or anything like that, and may contain information in them that is not subject to disclosure. I think that is, in a nutshell, all I have. I was trying to be respectful of the time. Any questions based on everything I've said?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Tobias. I wondered, I think that an informal survey here would indicate that we probably have not been keeping minutes at the subcommittee level, but we are now informed that we need to. And so as a result of that, would it be sufficient
Yes.
to do the following? Number one, to communicate that the subcommittee agrees with the Inspector General's findings on the following cases. List them. Number two, that the subcommittee raised the following questions and sent them to the Inspector General. And number three, the subcommittee disagreed with.
Yes.
Is that sufficient?
Yeah. Who's present at the meeting?
Oh,
to-
who's present?
To establish quorum, when the meeting's called to order, the cases that usually identified by case number that you're discussing, the nature of voting on any of those cases, or what the recommendations are going to be on those cases. What you said would be sufficient, yes.
Okay.
But where I thought you were going to go is once you adopt a virtual meeting policy, a part of that will be whether you want to record those or not. If you record those, the recording can serve as the minutes of the meeting because it captures the actual meeting
Okay.
itself.
That'd be great.
The concern is, once you record it, that's a public record. And so that's going to require a little bit more detail in terms of how those are going to be maintained if you actually
I see.
record them.
I see.
And again, we can work through all of those issues as they come up. Any other questions?
Keep a separate notebook with all that.
I'm sorry, you hit your mic?
Could we just keep a separate notebook with the information you just delineated?
Well, so
Is
you
that-
can do whatever you want in terms of how you maintain your own notes, but there needs to be some formal minutes related to the committee meeting that if you have a quorum there, usually will get voted on and adopted. It'll be very similar to these regular meetings. You don't adopt the minutes from the last meeting until the next meeting.
Okay.
It would be the same thing when the committee meets the next time. Whoever's going to draw up the minutes, you would then vote on approving those minutes from the last meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they should go to Stephanie, I'm assuming, for safekeeping, for retention. We'll use the legal term, retention. Any other questions? Awesome. If you have any questions moving forward, please feel free to email me, and if we need to set up additional WebExes or meetings, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Tobias.
Very helpful.
All right, turning now to case reviews from, I will say the last month, but we've got one case hung over from case number 24-1576.
Yeah. So, case number 24-1576, this is one that dates back to July that was assigned to Committee 1. It involves an individual who received a ticket for riding a bicycle, and that complainant had previously filed a complaint against that same officer. So we had sent a question in, and the question was, how did the investigator come to the conclusion that this was not a retaliation situation? We also asked, what evidence did they use to come to that conclusion, despite the fact that the officer confirmed that he knew the complainant? And I resent that question at the last meeting as well when we discussed this. I have not received a response from the IG's office regarding that. Both emails, and that's what the holdup is in our decision-making. We've been waiting on that to come to a conclusion or a finding with that case. I didn't know if you needed me to resend that, or you all needed to investigate that some more.
I would have to look to see. I don't know. At this point, I don't recall. Did we get that email? Maybe it came in, gone.
I'm sorry. It was originally sent July 29th. It was discussed at the August meeting. Quite a few, it was in, the video was sent to the board. The question was about, does retaliation, it was about a question of a whole thing about a law or whatever. It was discussed. The question was resent during the October meeting, and it was responded to. But yeah, the bigger question from the board was, how do you describe retaliation? And you actually asked Attorney Tobias, during the August meeting.
I don't have a response.
I'll look it up. I'll look it up.
Okay.
I do want to respond because I know that this has been on the books for a long time, and I believe we've had this discussion.
We're at it's beyond 100 days at this point with this one, I believe.
Conduct our investigations. We're looking at what the policy states. So I will tell the board, our investigations are based on what information we get from the officers, the officer's statement, what the policy states. If we don't have evidence to prove that what the complainant is alleging occurred, we go back to what the policy states. So it's possible that maybe that complainant may have, well, I won't say it's possible, the fact that they filed a complaint against us states the fact that this is what they perceive. But the investigation tells us that what our finding is that we did not find that retaliation occurred. So what I would say, the board clearly has the ability to, either, agree with our findings or have their own findings, and that's fine. So I would just say, we can definitely have a greater conversation, but I do believe that meeting, and I was not here, and I believe the deputy had basically stated, if you're asking for us to give you a definition or clarity as to why the retaliation occurred or didn't occur, what we will tell you is that the investigation is just based on facts of what the policy states. And we were not able to find any evidence, I believe that's what it states, to substantiate the allegation that the complainant made.
Thank you for that. And the other question that I believe was lingering pertaining to this was the previous complaint that was filed. And I believe there was a waiting to see what that disposition is. So he previously filed a complaint with the DIG's office. Then this happened and he filed another complaint. Do you all know the outcome of that first complaint?
What I can tell you, if you give me some time, what we can do is look up the complainant, so we should be able to look up the system if you want to move forward so we don't hold you up. And we can definitely we'll search the complainant's name and see if we can find the other complaint and be able to give you that disposition.
Are you asking what our finding was on
Yeah,
that?
just what the finding was.
Unfounded.
It was unfounded on both of them then? Okay. I think we can move forward with just
Yes.
going ahead with this.
We could release it.
Okay. Yeah, this has been held up. Thank you. So
So we should
for,
probably
so in
take a
case,
motion.
I was just about to do that. So in case 24-1576, we agree with the DIG's findings.
Okay, I'd accept a motion to that effect.
Oh, we move to agree with the DIG's
Okay,
findings.
thank you. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. Opposed? Abstention? All right. Thank you, Stephanie. All right, now turning to Committee 1 for case readouts for the most recently reviewed set of cases.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to put these, for clarity's sake, into 3 buckets. One, all of the cases that we agreed with the Inspector General's findings, and to just list those according to our new procedure. Second, we'll require a motion, which will be, so we'll move on that. Second is a motion when the Inspector General added a finding to the complainant's original allegations. And the third, we had agreed that we were going to discuss cases that needed a fuller board hearing. Okay? So,
That's right.
little framework, Mary? Thank you. All right. So the Committee 1 met, and we agreed with the Inspector General's findings in case 2025-0412-522-527, 542, 545, 580, 584, 618, 624, 629, 719, 735, and 740. We unanimously agreed, and so I moved to accept the Inspector General's findings in all of those cases.
Second.
Okay, any questions or discussion? Do you need the numbers?
The numbers again,
You need the numbers?
just, or whichever one. you don't-
412, 522, 527, 542, 545, 580, 584, 618, 624, 629, 719, 735, and 740.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I've got a first and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call those cases to vote. All in favor of supporting the recommendations to accept the IG's findings as listed, please raise your hands. Any opposed? And anyone other than Pastor Jones abstaining? No? All right, thank you.
In addition, the Inspector General added a charge of profanity in case 545. The committee unanimously agreed with the Inspector General's finding in case 545, and so I would move to accept the Inspector General's additional finding in case 545.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor of accepting the IG's recommendation as given, please raise your hands. Any opposed? And abstentions? All right, motion carries.
And third, in case 642, we felt that this case was worth discussing with the board. And just give you a bit of background for those on Committee 2 that may not have had an opportunity to look at that case. This was a case involving police response to a shot spotter alert. As they investigated, the 2 officers investigated, they saw a woman walking around the corner towards them in the area where they were responding. They stopped her, patted her down. She claimed that someone was trying to break into her home. She said that some crackheads were trying to break into her home. They said that they needed to leave to respond to a higher priority call, which was the shot spotter, and they said they would be back later. They left her. When they came back, she was gone. She alleged two things. Number one, that they should not have patted her down, that they conducted an improper search, but the Inspector General concluded that that was unfounded. We agreed with that finding on that allegation. However, regarding the second allegation that the officers failed to respond to her request for help, we asked the Inspector General for some further clarification, and we felt that we needed to discuss it here. While it is the case, apparently, according to CPD policy, that the shot spotter responses took priority and that they needed to respond to shots, we wondered about the reasonableness of the police officer's actions in leaving a citizen who's claiming that someone is attempting to break into their home without an adequate alternative. And specifically, if they needed to leave because the priority was the shots fired, we wondered about the possibility of calling for backup, for example, so that they sent someone to her home having received a report that her home was being broken into, or because there were two officers, leaving one of the officers and going with the other officer. So we wondered about some alternatives to this, and at least our committee had real questions about the reasonableness of the officer's response to a woman who said her home was presently being broken into. So, yes, so I just wanted to discuss that, and then
Were they at her home when she filed the complaint?
she was around the corner. They didn't know exactly what home
They were close.
they were, apparently so. We don't know for a fact. But it appears from the circumstances that they were very close to her home.
I agree with your thought process.
Dr. Jones, did you have anything did I miss anything?
No, I think you summarized our discussion quite eloquently.
Yeah.
You said something about the pat down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mary, your mic.
How did that fit in, the pat down? When,
I think what we understood by the pat-down, the reason we agreed with the Inspector General, and Dr. Jones, you can fill in or correct my recollection, is that because they heard shots fired, that this was reasonable they saw somebody walking towards them, and they conducted a reasonable search and seizure by patting down this person who was coming towards them when they had a shots fired signal. So that's how we understood it. I think that's how the Inspector General understood it. Is that correct?
I was trying to look because I know that the committee sent a question to us.
Yep.
And so we make it a purpose to send the question out to everyone. So everyone in the board should have gotten the.
And we got your response, but you didn't specifically respond to what you're
discussing
now
today.
discussing.
Right, may I ask what your question is right now, sir? I'm sorry, I missed it.
He was confirming the process of the pat down, like the reason for the pat down. So there was a shot spotter alert, and he was just asking was the interpretation correct that because there was a shot spotter alert and a woman was walking to them, they
Right.
basically pat down at the woman to ensure everybody's safety prior to the interaction?
That's correct. That fell
And so,
within, that
so
fell
we
within
accepted the
policy.
Inspector General's finding with respect to that, and so we weren't concerned about the first allegation of an unlawful pat-down or unlawful, improper search and seizure, but what we were concerned about was the second allegation, which was they didn't respond to our request for help. We understood that the shot spotter alert took priority. We just were very concerned that there wasn't an alternative other than wait until we deal with this, and then a woman is sent back to her home when she's alleging that someone is breaking into her home without police assistance. That seems to be, I mean, I think most citizens would expect that if there were police officers present, that they would do something. She wasn't saying somebody broke into my home last week. She was saying someone right now is trying to break into my home.
Yes, sir. So it was kind of, what the way that I believe the way the report reads, she left her house allegedly, if there was an active break-in, she left her kids in the house to come talk to the police, right?
Whatever.
And then the police did not send her back to her home. She said she wanted to go back home, and the officer asked her to sit on the curb, right? Just to sit on the
Sidewalk.
sidewalk. And they were going to address her,
Got all of
her
that.
issue or whatever.
And it may be that I have no, I don't know what was in her mind.
Sure.
Regarding whether her actions were reasonable, but we're asking about the reasonableness of the police action.
Mm-hmm.
That is, having received an allegation that somebody is breaking into her home, that they didn't offer some alternative beyond sit on the curb, wait for us to return, rather, we'll call for backup, or we will leave one of the officers. I mean, I don't know what police procedure is. Dr. Jones would know a lot better than me, or maybe not.
I'm sorry, I was going to follow up. The issue is when they, in the investigation, when they talked to the officers expressed that because there was no 911 call, which they would have heard if there was a 911 call being done in the area of a break-in occurring, that when they approached her, they were thinking that she was saying that she wanted a report, not that there was an immediate response to a break-in occurring. I mean, that was the.
I don't think that's the way it reads here. I think that, and whether there was a 911 call or a discussion with her on the street isn't relevant to what we're raising. What we're asking is why they didn't present her with an alternative.
Is it not within policy I imagine that it is not within policy to require officers to do that if you're weighing two different responses, but I could be wrong.
Yes, ma'am. They were dispatched to a shot spotter run.
And
which
the
is a
shot
high
spotter,
priority
because
run,
that's
and
takes
does
active
take
priority.
shooting
priority, yes.
takes priority over what sounds like maybe, I don't want to say less clear about whether there was a immediate emergent.
We understand
So I
the
think-
prioritization. We're not debating whether the officers correctly responded to the shot spotter alert. What we are asking is, it seemed reasonable to us for the officers to put in a call to say, we've just met someone on the street at 2:30 at night who is saying someone is breaking into my home. That doesn't seem like something that, hold on, you sit on the curb, we're going to go and And particularly if the officers were informed that she had kids in the house. I mean, it just, we just wondered about whether they fulfilled their professional responsibility or whether this was unreasonable. The way the facts read to us was that this was unreasonable.
So what the report reads, sir, if she had stayed outside and we went back, we could have had a longer conversation, but I don't know where her house was to tell dispatch, hey, write up a run for this. So
Yes.
I think, like when you alluded to, they could have called for backup or whatever. They didn't know where her residence was.
What,
And again, their priority, they had to respond to that shot spotter run. I'm just telling you how we arrived. where
yeah,
you
no,
were,
I
sir.
totally hear you. And we read,
yeah,
we read it
absolutely.
exactly the way you're
Discuss.
reading it, except we would have added, they would have, on their way to the shot spotter alert response, they would have called in and said, we've got a woman here who's alleging that her house is being broken into. It just doesn't seem like their response was adequate.
So you guys have had multiple situations in the past where it doesn't sit well with you, it doesn't feel right, but it's not a violation of policy. And in those instances, I believe the way the board has moved prior is that you ask the police to review the policy and possibly make recommendations regarding the policy.
We did have the
And I don't,
reasonableness exception. Someone can remind me of the code number.
I think we had a discussion on the reasonableness several meetings ago, using that. And I think that might get to, so the question that I asked pertaining this was, what is the policy and or the directive when officers are in a situation like this? So you have a shot spotter alert, but then somebody notifies you while you're responding to that there's an active break-in. We get that the shot spotter takes priority, but in the interim, what is done is it typical practice just to tell the person, you just sit on the sidewalk? If that's what it is, then that we perhaps need to have a discussion about maybe some alternative responses to that situation. But I think we're just looking for clarity in terms of that. And I don't know, if you all conducted interviews with the officers and this was a topic of discussion, or did you just stick with, the allegations that were brought up as it pertains to this case? We were just looking for a little bit more insight into what happens in those situations.
Yes, ma'am. Vice Chair Jones, a shot spotter alert is a priority two run. CPD policy states that officers should respond to priority 1 and 2 runs without delay.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
how we came to where we.
Okay.
And I can share as well, just my 23 years as a prosecutor, they have lights and sirens on and they are going all out to get to wherever they need to get to.
Yeah.
To your point, Board Member Nathan, about calling into dispatch, there's no time for that. I mean, they are exceeding the speed limit, lights and sirens, getting to where they need to get to on a shots fired because of the high priority of that run.
And where would an allegation of that someone's breaking into my home, what would that be? Priority what?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
The priority
That's a
3?
3.
It's 3.
What I was going to,
Scary.
I would say they thought she was asking to make a report. So to make a report for that is a priority 3.
I was just trying to add a little clarity. I do understand what Board Member Nathan is saying. I think the issue that we had with the report is that when we talked to the officers, because that was the question, the complaint is that the complainant is stating that she had an active, that's her allegation, is that she had an active breaking and entry, she had an active breaking and entering occurring. And when she approached the officers didn't do anything because they were on the shot spotter alert. The issue here is the officers are saying that the information that she says, and they looked at the body cam, it was not conveyed to them. It was a break-in that was actually occurring. Their impression was that she wanted to make a report. And so what I'm saying is sometimes when officers are out there, and I don't like to add more detail to a report other than what we're discussing and the clarity. But if the officers are on the scene and they're responding and someone comes up to them and they don't say, hey, this person, somebody's actively breaking in, they just come up and say I want to make a report, or they're not clear. Officers don't hear that. My assumption, and again, it's just an assumption, and I don't like to do assumption, if an officer is responding to an area where there's a shots spotter alert, and somebody was to come up and say, somebody's breaking into my house, the officer is already in the area. The officer is probably going to start thinking, oh my God, is somebody shooting that person in that house? They're going to respond. But if a person approaches them and they're not clear, the officer's focus is going to be on why they're responding. Shots fired, they're looking for all of that and putting all that information in there. So just coming back to the focus, when they interviewed the officers said, their impression was she wanted to make a report. That was the only reason why they told her
Gotcha.
to sit on the curb. It wasn't that they did not, it wasn't that what she said they understood. And I don't know, we looked at the body cam. Even when we were looking at the body cam, we didn't see somebody running up and saying, somebody's breaking in my house. So the officers, most likely, based on what we were able to see, probably didn't take it like that, so.
So, Mr. Tobias, may I ask a question? So I understand, we have a dispute, a factual dispute, but regarding the law, that is, would you help me to understand this? We've discussed it in the past, but I just don't recollect where we landed on the reasonableness exception that is under our, I don't remember if it's in the Ohio Revised Code or if it's in the city code, but officers have to act reasonably or with professional diligence or something. There's a broad catch-all.
Are you referring to the central work rules? Is that?
Maybe it's the central work rules. But there's a catch-all provision regarding
Because I
conducting
believe
themselves-
in the kind of infancy of the board, I think the board was relying more on that kind of catch-all provision when it was making some decisions related to complaints. And I think I had provided guidance about that and not to do that. And so, because almost everything could potentially fall within that. Again, it's just, it's an inexact science. There are some situations where you're just not going to feel good about them, but they're not a violation of policy, and then the board as a whole has to decide whether it wants to make any recommendations to revisit that policy because of the concerns that you have. I think that's it's not the best way to deal with it, but it's the only way to deal with it.
If I may add something, this may help also board member Nathan. From the initial contact with the complainant to the time they came back to talk to her was less than 2 minutes. So them calling another, unit or asking for backup, that would have taken longer than the time that they, circle back to try to talk to the complainant. So I don't know if that's helpful for you or not.
And just from looking at it, it sounds like they're responding to the shot spotter. She's coming out because she sees them, but
Correct.
they're specifically in that area because that is where the shot spotter triangulated a signal,
Correct, ma'am.
right? So reading it, it looks like they're in the same place, like to the point where they think she is the house where maybe the shots had been fired. And when they find out that's not the case, they're just like, hold on.
Right.
And by the time they could have returned to her, which it looks like it's in the same area, she was gone.
She was gone.
Right, and they didn't even know which house was hers.
That's
Okay.
correct, ma'am.
All right, that's helpful. Does Committee One want to propose any policy recommendation based on this case?
we'll revisit policies as it pertains to this situation during our next committee meeting. And if we do, we'll propose that at the next board meeting.
Okay. So we're going to hold on this, table this case then? Or,
I don't think we
No,
need to,
I don't think we
I don't
need to
think we
hold
need
on.
to
Okay.
table. I think we've heard enough. So we would move to accept the DIG's finding in case 642.
okay, may I have a second, please?
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, all in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you, motion carries. Does that conclude all of Committee One's cases?
Yes.
Okay. We will take a 10-minute break, and then when we come back, we will hear from Committees 2 and 3. Thank you. And I will turn it over to combined committees 2 and 3 for their case report outs.
I also have 3 buckets here. So the first one, I'm going to leave case.
Your
number-
mic, Mary.
Oh,
You
okay.
got close.
Thank you. I'll leave, all right, so the first set will be case number, as to these case numbers, we concurred with the findings of the Inspector General. The first one is case number 220282. The next one is 250526, forgive me. These have DIG allegations. I'm going to put them in a separate bucket. So the next one is 250564, 250586, 250647, 250654, 250682, 250712, 250739, and 250752. So at this point, we move to accept the findings of the Inspector General for these cases.
Do you need the numbers again, Stephanie?
And I thought she mentioned
I ha-
0586 that I didn't see.
And it's 0583, not for 0586.
0586?
3.
05, I said 0583, and you're going to have to forgive me for that. That has a DIG spec on it. Spec, listen to me, I'm talking like a criminal defense lawyer.
I was like, which
Okay,
specification?
so I'm going to read them again, and these are the ones without a Department of the Inspector General allegation, all right? These are without 220282, 250497, 250507, 250564, 250586.
No.
No,
086.
8-3.
there's no 25086? No. There isn't, you're right. Okay, let me cross that off. All right, 250647, 250654, 250682, 250712, 250739, and 250752. And we move to accept these cases. We concurred to accept these cases as we concur with the findings of the Inspector General.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor of accepting, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
The next 3 have DIG allegations, and that would be 250526. And the DIG allegation here is that the officer used profanity. That was sustained. We concur with that sustained allegation. The next DIG allegation is 2025-0540, and the DIG allegation here is that the officer did not activate his BWC. He did not, so we concurred with that. And the final was 2025-0583, and the DIG allegation was that on 7/11/25, the officer was dispatched for a 10/27 assault/hospital report run, and they did not write a report in violation of division directives that they should write a report. And we did concur with the allegation, with this allegation from the Inspector General. So as to these 3 cases, we move to accept these findings of the case and the Inspector General's allegations.
Okay, may I have a second, please? Second. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
All right, and then the final case is case number 2025-0507. And in this particular case, I'm going to go ahead and read the conclusion into the record. Allegation number one was that the officers responded to the reported disturbance at the request of the complainant's husband after he reported that his wife was having a psychotic episode. The officers reported concern that she was becoming aggressive and yelling at her daughter, which was classified as uncharacteristic of her. Her daughter expressed fear of her mother. Officers expressed additional concerns that she would follow through with violence against herself or others. As a result, the officers transported her to OSU Hospital, and she was pink-slipped for a mental health evaluation. The investigation found no evidence that she was wrongfully seized by the officers or wrongfully detained by the officers without due process. Therefore, it is recommended that this be closed, this allegation one be closed as unfounded. Allegation number two, the investigation found that the officers interviewed the husband, the daughter, and also the daughter's therapist. The officers found that she had been uncharacteristically aggressive, yelling and mad, and had been, in quotes, just short of physical violence, close quotes. The officer's decision to effect a pink slip was not due to her spiritual beliefs, but due to the expression from her husband and daughter of uncharacteristic changes that made them fear her, such as becoming aggressive with daughter during tarot readings. The investigation found no evidence to substantiate the complainant's allegation that the officers discriminated against her based on her spiritual beliefs and digital expression. Therefore, it is recommended that this allegation be closed as unfounded. And the final third allegation pertaining to BWC footage that the officer asked the mother to see her chat log with ChatGPT, and that mother responded, sure, handing him her phone. The officer obtained consent to look at chats on the phone and did not leave the area or deny mother the ability to withdraw her consent in any way. The investigation found no evidence that substantiated the complainant's allegation that the officers accessed her personal ChatGPT logs without her consent. Therefore, it is recommended that this be closed as unfounded. Our committee reviewed this case, and we concurred with all three of these allegations with the Inspector General. We move at this time to accept the findings of the Inspector General.
Is there a second? Any questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, I'd like to call the vote. All in favor of accepting the recommendations, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Are there any additional cases from committees 2 and 3?
I have just one question, and it's for Stephanie. What became of case number 2025-0586? Was that just,
I need to look because I don't even
maybe
know
we
what
can
I'm
do
being
that
asked.
later. Let's not hold everybody
No,
up.
why am I being asked? So I can, was it reviewed or something? I don't know why I'm being asked.
I had it I thought it was assigned to committee number 2, 3. I read an extra case, I just don't know where.
I see what you're saying, Mary. I'm sorry.
You do? Okay.
But it doesn't sound like anybody read it. What Mary's saying is that she thinks that 0586 was actually sent out by me to the board, but does not see it on the agenda.
Correct. That's what I'm saying.
And
I'm looking to see if I see it.
And I'm
in my-
trying to see if I send it out to everybody back in the beginning of October.
What day is that email from? Sorry.
It was sent to everybody on October 9th.
Thank you for the date. That's what my email is not letting me search.
Yeah,
real
so
well.
she was not incorrect. I apologize, it's not listed on your agenda.
Okay,
She did, on that date, it was 5830586.
our committee did review.
You
Oh,
did
you did
review
review
it?
it?
Okay.
Yeah, we
okay,
reviewed
okay.
it. Our committee reviewed it, and we, yeah, I got it here.
Go ahead,
Did you
Mary.
review
Thank
it
you.
also?
No, no.
No, I was going to
I was
ask her
gonna
too
read
if we
it.
hadn't, but if your committee did review it,
No, we
go
did
ahead.
it.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah. As to case number 2025-0586, committee number 2-3 did review this case, and we do concur with the findings of the Inspector General. I apologize. No, it's okay.
Do you want to
May I
move?
have that in a motion? Yes.
We move to accept the findings of the Inspector General.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor or first questions? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Perfect, thank you. All right, are there any further cases from Committee 2/3?
No?
Thank you. At this moment, I'd like to announce new committees, well, not new committees, but a splitting of Committee 2 and 3. 0630, which case is that?
I sent that to you, everybody, because it came late. That is the one where we have the officer, am I able to say it? Retiring?
0630.
Yeah, I sent that to
Pulling it up.
I sent it to everybody to ask for it to be reviewed today. Let me see
Give me
what they,
just a moment.
okay.
I don't have it. I don't have it.
You said 250630? Yes. You have that under committee 1, right? Yep, second one.
No, it's right up here on top, see?
Just stuck on the top.
Oh.
I apologize.
I don't
know
have
there was
that
email.
one.
I apologize. I don't see where I can send it
I don't see it either.
to. There was an
All
email.
right.
That's my fault.
Okay, we can put that on for December. If,
Assigned to somebody.
Now, we redistribute these cases in, since we have another committee? Okay.
yep,
No. October 17th.
October 17th? Okay, let me look.
Okay.
PRB, please read the attached.
Okay, well, let's go check it out. October 17th.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, here it is.
Yes, it was the whole board and I copied.
I don't think I have that. I just have an investigation review worksheet.
That's okay, she can, this one is I said.
0630, right?
Yes.
I don't have it.
Absolutely.
All right, while I'm waiting for that to come into my inbox, I wanted to give the board members some space to have less cases to review in their committee. My hope was to have Board Member Anderson, who left us last month, be switched out and have two committees. We're still going to move back to having committees 2 and 3. Chair Jackson will chair Subcommittee 3, along with our newest board member, Pastor Jones, and then Dr. Ford and Board Member Younger will be back to Committee 2. So that way, there's more of a distribution among 3 committees instead of each committee having as many cases to review. All right, with that being said, I will read out the summary on case number 2025-0630, and we can have a full meeting or full vote where each board member can just vote today. So this comes from a July 24th, 2025 complaint to the Inspector General made in person. The complainants allege that officers were rude and aggressive, that their demeanor and tone were mean, that officers prolonged a stop for over an hour, that an officer lied about a seatbelt violation against a complainant, that officers damaged a vehicle, leaving scratches on a door, that an officer did not return the complainant's identification card, an officer threatened to the complainant by yelling that if he didn't prove his name, things could really go bad, provide his name, things could really go bad for you. 7, that officers place handcuffs on too tightly, and 8, that officers place the complainants in cruisers with no air conditioning or windows put down even after they were asked. The IG's investigation consisted of an interview with the complainant, an interview with the focus officer, a review of CAD data, event chronology report, a review of BWC footage, and a review of the Columbus Division of Police Policies and Procedures. Concerning allegation 1, the investigation found the officers were involved in a traffic stop where the complainants were pulled over to the left of the shoulder on the interstate. The allegation that the officers spoke too loudly, but their demeanor and tone did not change. It's recommended that the allegation be closed with a finding of unfounded. Concerning allegation 2, the investigation found no evidence to substantiate the finding or the allegation. The officer that initiated the stop followed the steps required for a traffic stop and did not intentionally prolong it. Additionally, officers conducted a thorough investigation and searched the vehicle after a narcotics dog indicated on the vehicle. The interior of the vehicle was cluttered. Therefore, it's recommended that allegation also be closed with a finding of unfounded. Regarding allegation 3, the complainant stated that he had been wearing his seatbelt. Given the angle of BWC, it was not possible to determine whether he actually was wearing the seatbelt or not. The complainant held that they were wearing the seatbelt while the officer believed that he was not. The officer did not issue a citation for an alleged seatbelt violation. Therefore, it's recommended the allegation be closed with a finding of not sustained / inconclusive. Concerning allegation 4, the investigation found that the vehicle's door was scratched when the narcotics dog indicated on the vehicle. Those dogs are trained to scratch in the direction of a scent. That is within policy. Therefore, it's recommended that that allegation be closed with a finding of exonerated. Regarding allegation 5, the investigation found the officer did not return the complainant's ID. That allegation is recommended to be closed with a finding of sustained. Concerning allegation 6, the investigation found the officer did not threaten the complainant, but rather advised him of the potential outcome of his refusal to identify himself. The officer stated, "Because at this point, if you give us your name, we'll be all good, or you don't, and we won't be good at all, because when my partner initially pulled you over, he saw that you weren't wearing your seatbelt. That's a traffic violation." So therefore, it is recommended that this allegation be closed with a finding of unfounded. Concerning allegation 7, the investigation found neither the complainant advised that their cuffs were too tight during the stop. Officers are required to check the tightness of the handcuffs if a subject complains that they are too tight. Because that complaint did not happen at the time of the stop, it is recommended the allegation be closed with a finding of unfounded. And last but not least, regarding allegation 8, the investigation found the complainant stated that she felt like she was going to pass out from the heat. An officer asked her if she wanted the window opened a little bit. She said yes. The officer lowered the window next to the complainant approximately 4 inches. It is recommended, therefore, that this allegation be closed with a finding of unfounded. Hearing those allegations and the recommendations from the IG. You can also see there were, it looks like 20 some odd documents reviewed in the course of this investigation, a series of statements that were also taken and reviewed along with the BWC. Does anyone have any questions or discussion?
Yeah, I do. The one statement by the officer, hey, we're all good, but if you don't give me the ID, then we've got this pending charge against you of not wearing a seatbelt. Maybe Mr. Tobias could help us, or maybe it's in the IG's report, but is that within the discretion of the police? Like, hey, let me just tell you, bad things could happen to your restaurant or not. I'm just trying to get the sense of discretion here, like we will charge you if you give us the ID. We won't charge you if you don't, and that's okay?
I apologize because I'm
There-
trying to find the statement in the report. Can you tell me what page that's on? in there?
It's on page 2.
It's copied in the summary.
In the summary on page 2, it's the second to last paragraph.
And while the IG is looking, I mean, there are interrogation techniques, whether they're out in the field or whether they are at this police station. And unless my understanding is wrong, officers can actually lie about whether charges may or may not be filed during the course of an interrogation. So I don't think, given the totality of the circumstances here, that it would rise to the level of any wrongdoing.
Is this an interrogation?
Well, sure. I mean, if they're interacting with folks and asking questions and trying to investigate,
Specifically, if she's taken into custody because she's cuffed.
well, I
And
was
they-
going to say,
Yeah,
I'll draw a
they're-
distinction between like an on-scene just questioning versus once you're put under arrest, cuffed, then you have to be Mirandized, right?
But yeah, that's some of my least favorite case law, is that law enforcement officers are allowed to lie.
So,
during those.
they would have the discretion then, Mr. Tobias, to say, we'll charge you. You feel comfortable with that?
It's like a officer stopping someone for speeding and deciding to give somebody a warning. There was a violation, they clock them, but they,
But we won't give you a warning if, I'm just trying to get a sense of the discretion. I mean, do they have just broad discretion that,
yes.
that I can tell you I'm gonna, if you don't do this, I will charge you with this?
Yeah, the problem would be if they charge them with it and there was no probable cause to charge them
Well,
with it, that would
yeah, I
be
got
problematic.
that.
But if, they have probable cause and they say, I won't charge you with this if you cooperate and provide me with additional information, they can do that.
Are there any other questions? Would anyone like to move to accept the IG's recommendations as given? May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. All right, I believe that is all the cases we were set to review today. Any other broader policy issues that anyone would like to put on the floor?
It's not so much a policy issue, but just, we raised a question, I believe it was sent out to the rest of the board, and that question, it was listed under general questions in the email, and it actually pertained to just tracking complaints against individual officers. We had a discussion about that. One of the things that we have noticed in our review is that sometimes officers, they appear multiple times. And so we were inquiring as to whether or not the DIG, through the matrix system or the other systems that they perhaps may use, have any capabilities to track those complaints. And the DIG informed us, yes, that they do have the ability to do that. And so I'm wondering if there's a way, or do you all have a mechanism or a policy in place if, let's say, you see an officer multiple times, do you do like a red flag system or anything like that? Or is that something that we could perhaps look into?
So to answer your question, we do look at officers that may come through our system with multiple complaints. I don't know if we've looked at doing a red flag or so. We could probably do that. But the issue that we have, and we try to make sure, too bad that Tiara's not here. In the beginning, when we were looking at the complaints that we investigate involving officers' allegations, we are bound by what the collective bargaining agreement does as far as whether or not officers in a sequence of having a list of complaints, is it something that you could put a red flag on it? Is it something that they can be disciplined for? Because there is a progression as far as how officers are able to be disciplined. It's based on the type of complaint, how soon it was, how long it stayed in the record. So for there, what we've been doing, now we can always do if the board wants us to provide some additional information, we can definitely do that. But what we've been trying to do is just provide the board with information regarding a pattern of complaints that we see that we're able to present to the board, where the board would be able to provide some type of recommendation to show that, hey, this is a pattern. The other thing I will say that we do look at, and we've talked about, I was getting ready to say if Nate was still here, because when we do our quarterly report, we look at that too. There are initiatives that occur, and I think with with the question you presented to us, I just couldn't get into everything, but understanding sometimes there are initiatives that occur within a certain precinct area, which might be the reason why you might see more complaints come in regarding a specific officer. We also know, remember a while back when they had the, what was that, Storybrooke incident, and we ended up with a lot of complaints. So we just want to make sure that we're careful about any information that we provide to you that may look like a pattern, but it can be some other outside influences that may have occurred. But again, what I would say is any information that you want us to provide, like I would say, for instance, if you were concerned to say, hey, could you provide some officers that has a series of complaints maybe over the last 2 or 3 months or a year? How does that look? And can you do a deeper dive that if we're looking at that, did they belong to a special unit? Because you have your intact unit, you have your gang squad unit, gang enforcement unit. So you have different units that might affect why all of a sudden you ended up having a lot of complaints. What I will say that we were doing was just focusing on complaints that we received that were sustained, or if it was something that we were receiving that was not necessarily a policy violation like the body cam, but we were seeing something consistent that we could bring to the board's attention. But again, what I will say, if the board has a concern and you're looking for something, ask us, let us do the research, and then I would love to be able to make sure that we do the background information. So when we present it to you, we're able to say, hey, these are some other areas that we looked at that did affect it, or we'll be able to say, hey, we didn't find anything else. I hope that, kind of
that's good.
clarifies.
Thank you.
We were looking at the same thing in our committee, but one of the things we were thinking about, or at least I was thinking about too, is, yeah, we have similar, same complaints coming from the same officers, but if they're not found it, how does that red flag? You know what I'm saying? If every case we look at with that particular officer's name and they're unfounded, how can you red flag it?
Same thing. We actually do the same thing. We look at that too. So if we pull an officer's name, and we had an officer one time that we received a lot of complaints, and we started looking at that. Some of it was unfounded. One of the things that we did find, and that's how we came to be familiar with the fact that sometimes over the summer, they do those precinct initiatives, and they put certain units out there, and the goal is, when they throw them out there, is to say, hey, we're addressing everything that's drug-related and everything, and so the officers are a little bit more aggressive in that. Yes?
What?
Sorry, guys, can everybody please speak into your mics?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oops. I was wondering, because our committee, for 1 month, had, one officer had 2 allegations, and we kept seeing his name. How many is too many? You know, we're talking about multiple allegations, and I know we have an FOP contract, but what does that mean? And I know I came down to look at this particular officer's body cam. One case, I came to see it, to watch it, and it was, and the explanation that I got from one person was that this was a go-getter, that he was a, so that he was, that sometimes being an aggressive officer is a good thing, and so I'm not exactly sure how would you use this information, the multiple complaints, and because I think it's important.
No, I agree. We look at a lot of stuff, and I would say it's easier when we look at things quarterly, which was one of the reasons we were doing the quarterly reports. And that's just based on the fact that you're able to see more of a pattern if you're looking at something over a 3-month period of time. But again, we would see that if it happened over a 30-day period of time, simply because when we're doing the investigations and the team is talking, if an officer's name comes up, and we could probably talk to the team now, and they would tell you several officers that come across all the time, and we're looking at their work. But again, part of it is when we're looking at the actions, looking to see whether their actions that they took violated a policy or procedure. Also looking at the actions that they took, was it within policy and procedure, but it just might be that the policy that is out there may just be a policy that is not conducive to the interaction with citizens. Again, that would be something that we would want to make sure that we bring to the board's attention to say, hey, this is what we're looking at while we're getting complaints. It's not a policy violation, but this is something that, would be concerning to the board. So, yeah, you asked a question, what would be too many complaints? I will say a red flag for us would be if within a 1 to 2 week period of time, we receive multiple complaints, all the same, involving the same officer. And what I will tell you is that in a case like that, not only would we be looking at it and bringing it to the board's attention, but we also work with the chief, because the chief wants to know that they don't have a rogue officer out there doing whatever and violating policies. We would also bring that to the chief of police attention, simply because we know our investigations take 90 days, and we wouldn't want to have an officer out there that we've identified. And again, it's not to say that that we're finding or sustaining, but it would just be the ability to notify the chief to say, hey, we just want you to know over a certain period of time, this officer has came up, and here are all the complaints that we have received. And what I will let you know also, I don't know if the board is aware of that, but we do monthly provide a list of all the complaints that we have received, and the officers. We do provide that to the chief of police monthly, so that they are aware of that, so they have the ability to monitor that themselves.
Any other policy issues? And just to be, just for clarification, so if a committee is looking at reports and they see a name they've seen before, they could just reach out to your office and say, hey, could you pull however many what case numbers has this officer shown up before? And that's something that they could get back before the next meeting.
Oh, absolutely. Our
Okay.
database would allow us to be able to search by officer's name, and we can pull that information up.
Perfect, thank you. Okay. Any other issues for discussion? Okay. Before then, I call for Just making sure I got all the little things. Okay. So we've already voted on our virtual meetings. Before I call for a motion to adjourn, I just wanted to say thank you to the IG for putting together the report and making it as detailed as it was. I don't think, despite how we may come off in meetings, I don't think the board underestimates the amount of work that it takes. We know that your team does an incredible amount of lifting, especially when you look at, over 1,200, complaints and how that comes across. So just let me say on behalf of the board that we appreciate the amount and volume of work. And also, I will say and ask, just like the IG has asked that we work together cooperatively, I will say that I know that sometimes we sound impassioned, and sometimes we also miss deadlines that we have been asked to comply with. And so I will ask us as a board to kind of recommit ourselves to ensuring that how we communicate about things impassionately is not seen as undermining the work that is being done by the office, but also knowing that we're all doing a very important and vital role that citizens have asked for. And so I would ask that we be mindful of that. And sometimes it is not what we are saying, it's how we are saying it. And I'm not lost on the impact that that can have on folks who are doing their best to work hard. I will also ask for us to recommit ourselves to reading our emails, to ensuring that we are complying with whatever deadline we've been asked to, so that if we are asking for information and expect to get that back, that we are reciprocating that as well, so that if there is something that we've been asked to either supply or respond to, that we do that. And also that across the board, that we all handle our communications graciously with each other, knowing that all of us are doing hard work, whether it is us as board members who are volunteers, or as the IG's office who are not, who this is their livelihood. So with that being said, should there be any breakdowns of those communications, please, everyone, feel free to come to me. I appreciate the opportunity to work with and talk with everyone and try my best to ensure that we're all upholding our professional standards. Okay? With that, I would entertain.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yes, Mr. Device.
I know the terms start in April, but for chair, vice chair, were those at the beginning of the calendar year, or were those also in April? Maybe we could check that.
I think we did it all April as well.
Okay, I just want to make sure people start thinking about that as well. Before we know it, we'll look up, it'll be February.
Yep, indeed. All right, with that, I would unless anyone has anything else for the good of the order, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? And Mr. Jones, you can also vote for this one. So hopefully you voted yes to adjourn. All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.